My name is John Riehl. I'm the president of the Lord Christian Medical College Foundation located in New York City. It's been in existence for the past 75 years. This is our 75th anniversary year, 2023. And the nice thing I can start by sharing with you is that in every one of the last 75 years, the foundation and members of the Scudder family have been working together to help create a greater impact on the work that is being done in the medical community in India. And so I can share with you that the Scudder family, through the Association Foundation, is the only relationship that I can find that dates back for the entire of the 75 years that I've been able to understand about our foundation. So a couple of housekeeping things that I want to just take care of. I want to first say thank you to Charles for inviting me to speak with you this evening. It truly is my pleasure. I am the grantee, right? I'm the beggar who's out there trying to develop and cultivate relationships to raise money to allow us to impact the mission of CMC in India. And to have this opportunity to speak with you this evening is really something I'm really grateful for. And I'm even more grateful for how generous you have been over the 5-year period since I've been a member of the foundation. I also want to share with you that 5 years ago, give or take a couple of days, I was in the interview process with the Lord CMC Foundation. And it was a gentleman by the name of Bill Scudder, who happens to be in this room, who was definitely, weighing in heavily amongst the personnel committee to bring me on board. And so I have a debt of gratitude to Bill, because I wouldn't be standing here before you this evening, but for the fact that Bill and other colleagues were so supportive of the idea of me joining the organization. So very grateful to you, Bill. Thank you.
I'm grateful for you for joining us. So thank you.
The thing about Bill is every time I've ever been in his company, he always is dressed better than I am.
You set yourself up on that.
And his haircuts are always better. There are a couple other people in the room. Jim Taylor, sitting at the table toward the back. Jack Gilmar, who's up here in the front, and Rob Fish, also with us this evening, have been, in addition to their contributions through the association, have as individuals been very, very generous to CMC, and we as their agent to be so. And so to you guys, I am deeply grateful for your generosity, and I hope you lived up to your expectations. So with that said, I thought what I would do this evening is to talk with you a little bit about our foundation, but do so within the context of the relationship that we've cultivated with the Scudder Association Foundation. So I will kind of weave back and forth between who we are and what we do, and how that has parlayed into decisions that I have made or the organization has made as it's related to the relationship that we have with the members of the Scudder family. So with that, I'll ask you, Rich, to just advance the slide for a moment. Okay, so real quick, our mission as an organization is solely for the purpose of supporting CMC in its mission and its strive for excellence in research, education, and patient services. And so we are dedicated to that mission, as well as to ensure the lasting legacy of Ida Scudder. And so keep those things in mind as I kind of share the things that we are doing. Tactically, how we go about meeting our goals and objectives are really threefold. We are a fundraising organization. My goal is to develop one-to-one relationships with every single one of the donors who are part of our donor community. It's also to act as a global ambassador for CMC. You guys have been familiar with CMC. Many of you have probably met or gone and visited there. What they are doing in the little town of Vellore, India surpasses what many medical institutions in every other part of the world are doing. And I think it's incumbent upon us as an organization to let the world know and help them become familiar with how important CMC is within the healthcare profession. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there was a study done recently. CMC as a medical college today is ranked as the 46th finest medical education in the world. So they surpassed. So it really speaks to, the importance of the ethos of Scudder, right? It's, you can learn the science of medicine at every medical school that you go to. But learning about empathy and compassion is the unique identifier of anyone who graduates from that school. And it's why they become so much more proficient in their profession than most other doctors in the world. And then finally, I would say that, it's our responsibility to be responsible stewards of every donation that we receive. So that's our mission. These are our tactics. And as we move into this, I can kind of share with you how we blend those two together. All right, so, just in terms of who we are as an organization, if this is us, the foundation, we have target audiences or target groups that we try to fundraise with. The Scudder Association Foundation, and really more broadly, the Scudder family is one of our primary target groups that we try to cultivate relationships with on an ongoing basis, with the hope and expectation that you will work with us to support CMC. In addition to the Scudders, there are today about 1,500 CMC alumni who have full-time practices here in the United States. About 900 of them are nurses, 600 of those are doctors. And, what's nice is that, at least from a medical perspective, it's not like they have a local pediatric practice in your community or a general practitioner in the community, but they are holding prominent positions within some of the finest medical and academic institutions in our country, the likes of what you would expect from someone who graduated from Harvard School. No offense to you. We also have cultivated relationships with the faith-based community here in the United States. I would share with you with each one of these relationships that we cultivate today, a relationship that Ida Scudder herself cultivated, 100 years ago. And so really what we have been doing, particularly over the course of the last 5 years, is going back to our roots, re-engaging these faith-based institutions where those relationships may have gone stagnant on us, but it's now very much a part of our mission and our goal. We are soliciting funds from the U.S. government, particularly through the United States Agency for International Development and a program that they have called the American Schools and Hospitals Abroad. And because we're an American institution and CMC is a foreign institution, we meet the requirements to be able to apply for these grants. And so we have been finding a nice degree of success with that. And then this little icon here is just everybody else in the world. I heard an expression a little while ago. It was a Scudder. What is it? Yeah, Scudderoid. So we have this other group. They're not connected to any of these other worlds. They just have found a meaningful relationship either with the foundation or with CMC, and they are part of our donor community. So the funds come into us. Our objective is to move all these funds to CMC. And based on our donors' expectations and their designation, we support either research, education, or patient services. I'll highlight that a couple of these arrows are in green. They start from the Scudder Association Foundation, and they find their way either to Scudder Memorial Hospital or to the patient services aspect of what CMC Valor is doing. I would say that probably about 99% of all the funds that we receive from members of the Scudder family or from the association funnel into patient services through CMC's community outreach programs. We could talk a little bit more about that, but just wanted to keep that in mind. And also kind of a one-off is that through our foundation, we send funds to Scudder Memorial Hospital, and that is due in part to the mission of the Scudder Association Foundation and the desire of individual philanthropists who happen to be part of the Scudder family. And so, Dr. Raj, you are the beneficiary of the generosity in this room as well. We have that in common. Okay, so that's who we are. That's how it works. My job is to try and raise as much money as I can through these 5 sources, and as quickly as I can, send the funds to CMC with proper designation for them to use those funds. It's the way we measure our impact. Next slide, please. So when we think about friend raising, to me, it's not really about fundraising, right? It's about who can we cultivate relationships with here in the United States that will be of benefit to CMC. And really, it's within the medical community that we make that happen. And so over the course of the last 5 years since I've been here, we've built relationships with each of these institutions, with the exception of Tufts Medical School. That relationship was already in existence when I arrived, but with the likes of the University of Rochester Medical Center. By the way, there's a Dr. Robert Block, who is a cardiologist at the University of Rochester Medical Center. He is a descendant of the Scudder family as well. And that's how we cultivated the relationship with them. But with Johns Hopkins University and their School of Nursing, with the Medical College of Wisconsin, thanks to Jim and his wife, Susan Taylor, Memorial Sloan Kettering, Mayo Clinic. There's a CMC graduate who is today the president of Mayo Clinic Health Systems. Of course, that's opened up many doors for us there. And the purpose for all of these really is to create opportunities for CMC faculty to do fellowship programs, for CMC research to find collaborative partners here in the United States, for student exchanges to take place. So these are all relationships that are solely for the benefit of CMC. We cultivate them because as part of our mission, everything we do is to serve CMC. This is one of the things that we do. So we're not just about fundraising, we're really about cultivating relationships. And I said also about being ambassadors. And I think if we go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about that. So in our role as global ambassadors, we've come up with a couple of ideas. One is we decided 12 years ago to begin the sponsorship of the Dr. Ida Scudder Humanitarian Oration. For the past 12 years, every year, either in person or virtually, we've held these events. 11 out of the 12 of them were in Valor. We had one here in New York when we paid tribute to Dr. Roger Glass from the NIH. As you can see by the photographs here, out of the 12 years, on 2 of those occasions, the orator for that year was a member of the Scudder family. In 2018, Dr. Rob Fish. In 2020, Dr. Jim Taylor. And both of you guys were excellent. So I would give a round of applause. Great representatives of your family and to the honoring of individuals who exemplify compassion, integrity, and character. Um, each person that we choose is someone who we feel has and carries the same high ideals that Ida Scudder did when she founded CMC 123 years ago. Well, we've also started, and I don't know if all of you are on our email distribution, but during COVID, we created what we call our virtual lecture series. And we've recruited speakers, lecturers from all around the world, from Australia, from the United Kingdom, from Auckland, from Hong Kong, from Canada, United States. The common theme here is that whether you're working as the dean of the business school at the International School of Business in Hong Kong, or you're the pastor of a parish of a United or a Baptist church in Auckland, New Zealand, or whether you're the bishop of the Church of England in the UK, there has to be some connection between your livelihood and to CMC. So every one of our speakers, as you have found or you will find, there is always a connection to either Ida Scudder or to CMC, regardless of topic. And so we've had about 20 of those so far on 2 occasions. One is the next occasion on October 20th of this year. We will have Professor David Dickinson as our presenter. He's a professor emeritus from Southern Michigan University. He happens to also be a historian on the Scudder family. He is married to a Scudder, and his lecture is going to be about the impact of the Scudder missionary work in the Middle East preceding the petroleum era in the Persian Gulf area, October the 20th. And so these give us opportunities to reach out to people around the world as representatives of CMC, convince them to be part of our community, and we do it through this virtual lecture series. Next slide, please. Okay, so I think this is really important for me to share with you, and that is when we look at the parallel activities that we have engaged in, and Charles and I have been working very closely together for the last 5 years, trying to identify ways for our foundation and yours to work together to have a greater impact on the work that CMC does. And I can share with you that in terms of community outreach, through the funding of your organization, we've supported the Rural Unit for Health and Social Affairs. All of these are CMC programs, by the way. Their Community Health and Development Program, the College of Nursing's Community Health Program, and in the Jawadi Hills, a number of different projects, including the Model Village Program, which is a global model for how to elevate these indigenous populations out of poverty into being self-sustaining. And we will, through the funding that you've provided within the next 24 months, actually be putting the first hospital ever in the Jawadi Hills region. And it will be for maternal, it'll be a maternity ward and also a pediatric intensive care or neonatal intensive care for children who are, part of complex pregnancies. You guys were very generous during the COVID relief period of 20 and 21. And you have also been involved in infrastructure programs, including the new Ranipeg campus, where you provided funding to support the opening of the first level 1 trauma center in the southern part of the country, and also the alumni assisted living facility that opened up. Was in 2020, it was during COVID, wasn't it? Yeah, that was one of those, it took forever to get it open, but finally it was able to. But the whole point here is that as responsible stewards, for each one of these gifts that you've made to us, we have sent 100% of the funds that you have given us to CMC for the purpose for which you intended. And we have done it very successfully by being compliant with the Foreign Contribution Reform Act that India put in place. So, so that each of you know This foundation here in the United States didn't hold back a single dollar of any of the money that you donated to us. We made sure it all got to CMC to help impact the work that they are doing. Next slide. So this one's a little busy, but this is kind of speaking about how we think about sustaining Ida Scudder's legacy. And we talked already about the Scudder oration. I think that was one of our most profound attempts at creating awareness and extending the legacy of Ida Scudder. But we have also since then created other awards within the context of our foundation. We have the Dr. Ida Scudder Women's Empowerment Award. So far, we've had 3 recipients. One of them happened to go to Chelsea Clinton, who was the author of a children's book. In that book, she wrote about Dr. Mary Vardis, who was one of the most prominent medical doctors at CMC, lost the use of her lower extremities due to an automobile accident, but became, one of the most notorious surgeons in the history of CMC. We gave another award to Dr. Milan Revere. She was the ambassador at large for women's empowerment for the State Department. And we will, on November 2nd, be giving our 3rd award to Dr. Pratibha Barki, who was the woman I mentioned about earlier. She's today the president of Mayo Clinic Health Systems. She has been recently identified as one of the 25 most prominent female leaders in the United States business world. And we will also be giving out for the first time the Dr. Ida Scudder Global Impact Award that will be given to the Reformed Church in America, which, as you probably all know, were the sponsors of John and Harriet, their children's missionary work, and Ida Scudder as well. And spoiler alert, I think is how they say that. At our gala event, also, the Scudder Association Foundation will be receiving the Dr. Ida Scudder Education and Medical Science Benefactor Award. So hopefully you guys will come and join us. On the other side, talking about donor and partner tributes, we talked about, the virtual lecture series, the Scudder oration. We've also started an annual ecumenical leadership forum for our faith community. The CMC alumni has a program called the Gathering of the Clan. They get together once a year. Just this past summer at their event, we introduced a new award. It's called the Esri Award. It stands for Excellence in Education, Research, and Service. Service, research, and education. The Esri Award, we gave one to a member of the medical community and one to a member of the nursing community. We've been doing these gala events. There are people who have been to each, and each one of them we really place as our emphasis the story of Ida Scudder and her mission and how we are trying to stay true to that mission even to this day. And then this year, we launched as part of our 75-year anniversary, the CMC Compassionate, CMC Strong campaign. This is really about using funds to distribute to each of the 3 primary missions: research, education, and service. Next slide. I think, as I had mentioned at the beginning, it is only the Scudder Association Foundation who has been a supporter of the foundation since it was founded by Ida Scudder back in 1948. And that's been in every single year over that 75-year period. And so for that, on behalf of the foundation, on behalf of CMC, just wanted to, again, share my extreme appreciation and gratefulness for all that you do. And thank you. So we can or cannot do this. I have a little 3-minute video. It's about CMC. Charles, you've seen it before.
You want to show it now?
Yeah, if you guys want to see
Okay,
it,
that's-
we'll do it and then.
I'd like to point out, so the Scudder Association Foundation is a 501c3, but because we're more of a family foundation, our 501c3 is a private 501c3, still totally above board, tax deductible, everything else. However, many of you, or many of us, should have set up a donor advice within their own financial situation. For that, that's how Jim and I have done a lot of our giving. We can't give directly to the Scudder Association Foundation to then send the money to CMC or Senator. So it was important for you, and I was really glad you chose, that we accomplished the same thing. Or since my foundation at Fidelity Investment, Fidelity Charitable Gift Fund, back, Vanguard has them, Schwab, they all have them. I cannot give directly to the Scudder Association Foundation because it's a private finance. So giving it to the CMC Foundation, and then it's going to the same place, it accomplishes the same thing. In fact, there is an account for the Scudder Association Foundation at Fidelity Charitable that you also can use. So I just want to thank you for that. I wanted to point that out because sometimes, you know, I grew up in a high tax state. We heard about on the boat what Connecticut means land of high tax. So it's a way of getting the deduction before we retire. When we retire, we have no income and I just want to throw that out there. And thank you for being a conduit for SME in addition to CMC.
Yeah, we were talking about this over dinner and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds. But, as I had mentioned, our sole mission. Just need a little water. Our mission is to support CMC. And so the fact that we kind of set up as a one-off, the legal ability, both from India's perspective and the US, to send funds to Scudder Memorial Hospital was absolutely, thank you so much, was an accommodation to the relationship that we have. And I think it speaks to the importance that we place on our relationship with the Scudder family, whether it's with you as an individual donor or with the Association Foundation. But this is something that you can't take lightly because it's really outside the parameters of who we are as the foundation. I am an advocate for you. Will continue to be an advocate for you. But it isn't something that just, it's just happening. There are concerns as to whether or not we can continue to do it. But I will continue to advocate and, so far so good, right?
And John, thank you very much for all of your intervention on our behalf. And I think it's on our agenda to work out proper protocols to be able to do this without stepping on anyone's toes.
Well, we haven't stepped on anyone's
I
toes.
know, but I mean,
But I would just
there
say,
is a workaround. We'll just have to figure it out.
can you go full screen on that?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I get the audio turned back on.
All right, let's-
John, thank you so much. I know when you first came on board, you came out to our house and we had a great time and we bonded at that time and You've done a terrific job ever since.
Thank you.
We've had a great relationship between CMC and Scudder and Riehl ever since. And we really appreciate that, and I hope that can continue in the future.
As do I. And it has been a great relationship.
Yeah.
And it's been a pleasure working with you. I hope we can continue to do so going forward.
Okay, everyone. Well, thank you, everyone.
Charles, we have a video.
Whoop. Oh, we have a video. Hold on.